Good morning, everyone. For teleSUR, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We start off today in Venezuela, where President Nicolas Maduro has accused U.S. Vice President Joe Biden of plotting against his country. President Maduro warns that the U.S. government is planning a coup against the democratically elected national government. Now, he accuses Biden of being the main promoter of those plans. He adds that the plans are currently in what he called a desperate and dangerous phase. He also claims that the U.S. is talking with other governments in the Americas. He also directly accuses Biden of having talked with presidents and prime ministers in relation to the plans. Maduro calls for civic military unity to face any attacks and for people to be, quote, alert and organized. Next door in Colombia, the High Court of Bogota has decided that the ex-director of the Department of Security, Maria del Pilar Hurtado, will stay in the court lockup until a decision is reached by the Supreme Court. Hurtado is accused of 5 crimes involving following and illegally phone spying on social and movement leaders in the country. Bolivian President Evo Morales inaugurated a multifunctional stadium on Sunday in the state of Potosí. Morales handed the stadium over to the Chirocasa community. The funding for it came from the government public works program. 1,500 people can fit in the stadium, where locals can play football, volleyball, and basketball, as well as hold community meetings. To inaugurate the stadium, a friendly match was held between the presidential team and the local community. In Palestine, Israel has ramped up restrictions on Gaza fishers. As our correspondent Noor Harazin reports, Israel forces often use firepower to enforce the fishing regulations.
Israeli naval forces opened fire towards Palestinian fishing boats off the coast of northern Gaza on Saturday night, despite a truce reached between Israel and Palestinian resistance groups after the last summer's offensive on Gaza. Israeli forces have continued to violate the Egyptian brokered ceasefire. While the Palestinian fishermen are subjected to Israel's illegal and ongoing naval blockade, they are also hit hard by the Gaza Strip's weeks-long fuel crisis. Every day, the fishermen of Gaza need at least 30 liters of fuel to generate each boat for a 3-hour fishing trip in the sea. Gaza's fishermen have faced various forms of abuse at the hands of the Israeli entity Navy over the recent years. Palestinian boats have been seized and taken to Israeli ports, while many other fishermen have been arrested, harassed, and held by Israeli authorities.
I was arrested by the Israeli Navy a week ago and released yesterday. When I was arrested, I was fishing inside the 5-mile radius. However, they justified the arrest by saying that I had crossed the 6th mile. They shoot at us every day. They damage our boat and sometimes they injure us. All I want for now is for all this to end and for us to be granted our basic rights.
However, Israeli forces continue to pressure Palestinian fishermen at sea, all under the pretext of maintaining a security blockade and a siege which is widely condemned by the international community. Noor Harazin, teleSUR TV, Gaza.
Thanks to Noor. Meanwhile, in Russia, millions of unique texts have likely been lost in a Moscow library fire. The massive fire in Russia's leading academic library may have destroyed some 15% of the collection. That's roughly 2 million unique historic documents. Many academics hoping to save some of the ancient texts say the devastation resembles Chernobyl. The blaze began at around 10 at night in Moscow on Friday on the 3rd floor. It was fully extinguished 24 hours later, but firefighters continued to pour water over the library and over the structure into the next day. South to Ukraine, a large banner reading, quote, "This is not my war, say stop to mobilization," end quote, was hung on top of Odessa's Morskoy railway station in the early hours of Sunday morning. Activists displayed the 15-meter-long banner in protest of Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko's 4th wave of military mobilizations into eastern Ukraine. The Ukrainian military's 4th mobilization began on January 20th with additional deployments expected in April and June. And in Syria, up to 7 people have been killed and dozens injured after a blast destroyed a bus in central Damascus. The explosion was reportedly carried out by a suicide bomber. The bus, which held a Lebanese license plate, was reportedly carrying Shiite pilgrims who were visiting religious sites in the Syrian capital. Now, despite the ongoing Syrian conflict, central Damascus has seen relatively little violence in recent months. The capital has not seen this sustained fighting since mid-2014. We're in South Asia, where doctors in India have announced that they have successfully carried out the country's first double hand transplant on a train accident victim. The patient received the hands of a younger road accident victim during 16 hours of surgery mid-last month. The operation involved 20 surgeons. Following the surgery, the patient said he was happy with his new hands and that he can do regular activities. Doctors say the transplanted hands were accepted by the patient's body, and in 3 to 4 months he would have full control over the new hands. The patient lost his hands when he was thrown out of a moving train. Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For teleSUR English, I'm Cody Weddle. Hope you have a great Monday and a great week.